11 a.m. Funny how I can't remember what day it is anymore, but I remember that number down to the second. I'd barely slept. Again. The bed was the same lumpy slab. The motel walls were still yellow with smoke and time. The Bible in the drawer hadn't moved. I hadn't opened it. Wasn't sure I wanted to know what it said about guys like me. I'd taken the mirror off the wall, turned it to face the corner. Couldn't bear to look at myself. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the cheap clock on the nightstand. 10:59 ticked forward to 11, and right on cue, the lights flickered. Then I smelled it. Brimstone and smugness. "Knock, knock," Mephisto said as he strolled into the room like he owned it. "Careful, I might start charging rent." He leaned against the door frame, perfectly balanced in a crimson jacket with a white clerical collar poking out underneath. He was swinging a golden rosary around his fingers like a set of car keys. "Look at ya, still alive, still breathing. And hey, 3 for 4 limbs accounted for. Not bad, soul boy." I didn't say anything. Didn't feel like playing along. Don't get mopey on me now. You gutted a hearth father last time. You're a rising star. Hell's got buzz, you know. He wandered over to the window, peeked out through the blinds like he was checking on the weather. "Anyway, time for the next curtain call." He turned toward me again, and something in his grin flickered. Just for a moment. His eyes shimmered gold, oily, and bright. "This one," he said, his voice dipping into something smoother and slower, "likes to think he's righteous." He looked me over, the grin crawling right back into place. I stood and cracked my neck. My muscles still ached from the last fight. I felt like I'd run a marathon while getting stabbed, which honestly wasn't far off. "You sending me to another dungeon?" I asked. No, not this time." He smiled wider, baring sharp teeth that weren't there a second ago. "This one's a little more structured. Hell's bureaucratic nightmare." He held out a hand like he was offering a waltz. "Ready to be born again?" I didn't take it. I didn't have to. The moment I blinked, the room folded inward. The scent of mildew and detergent peeled away, replaced by something ancient and burning. And then hell swallowed me whole. I landed hard. Concrete slammed into my spine like a slap from God, or the thing pretending to be him. And when I rolled onto my side, wheezing, I found myself lying on the cold marble steps of a building that should have never existed. Hell's bureaucratic district. I pushed myself up to my knees and looked around. Gray sky overhead. Dead gray. Not stormy, not foggy. Just felt processed. The building loomed above me, stretching at least 30 stories high, all black stone and red glowing windows. It looked like a bank made love to a mausoleum. Giant iron letters were bolted above the entrance in a language I didn't recognize but still understood. Infernal compliance and souls administration. The air smelled like burnt toner and tired ambition. Somewhere a phone rang, and kept ringing. I looked down. The steps were covered in office paperwork, each sheet alive and twitching like a nervous animal. I got to my feet, limping slightly. A migraine crept behind my left eye like it was clocking in for a shift. I didn't want to open the doors. But there's this moment, right before a new soul, right before Mephisto throws me headfirst into someone else's damnation, where I wonder if this is the one that'll break me, the one where I don't make it back. The front doors groaned open. Not dramatically, just exhausted. I stepped inside. The lobby looked like every office I'd ever hated. A soulless expanse of low ceilings, flickering fluorescence, and cheap floor tiles that hummed when I stepped on them. The front desk was made from ripped bone and twitching nameplates. The walls were plastered with motivational posters written in blood and sarcasm. Most said things like, "Your sin is our win," and "Compliance is kindness." Behind the desk hunched a demon named Briv, 4 arms, hunched back, skin like cigarette ash. His glasses were thick enough to see time through. A yellow vest stretched across his lumpy torso, each button replaced by a screaming face and mid-yowl. He didn't look up. "You're late," he snapped, scribbling something on a clipboard the size of a coffin lid. "I'm not." "Late. Orientation was 2 processing cycles ago. No call, no portal. Very non-compliant. That's a black mark already." "I'm not here for orientation." "You think I care?" He shoved a lanyard across the counter. It was made of stitched tongues and they twitched. "Put that on. Level 0 temp contract, non-lethal access. Don't touch the clocks, don't talk to the appeals furnace. Don't look the HR effigy in the eye. Standard onboarding." "You think I work here?" "I think you're warm and upright and this department's 2,000 FTE short. If that doesn't say, 'Hi, I'm new,' I don't know what does." He reached under the desk and hit a button. A mechanical siren groaned somewhere like it had eaten bad meat. "Now get in line. Tour group's already left." The floor jerked beneath me. A conveyor of bones rose from the carpet and carried me off. Cubicles. So many cubicles. Endless rows of gray partitions, each with a desk, each desk with a demon, and each demon wearing a headset and dead-eyed stare. Phones rang in a discordant symphony. Every computer screen glowed with a single word: submit. Piles of paperwork swelled and collapsed like waves. I saw one soul buried neck-deep in refund appeals, their fingernails gone from clawing through denial letters. Some clerks typed with bloody stumps. One wept ink from his eyes. Briv waddled past me, reading from a scroll that wrote itself in real time. "Appeals furnace is on sub-level 6. That's where the hopefuls go. You'd be amazed how many people think crying gets you a retrial. It's adorable." We passed a break room filled with boiling coffee pots and a microwave that screamed every 30 seconds. "Punishment reallocation sub-level 9. That's the fun one. We reshuffle sinners who got improperly categorized. You wouldn't believe how many lusts turn out to be gluttonies in disguise." A pneumatic tube burst overhead. A slurry of teeth and tax returns rained down. Briv didn't even blink. "Deviance forecast is up top," he continued, pointing to a spiral staircase made of finger bones. "They predict sin probability. Run the numbers on who's about to mess up next. Ever seen a soul flagged before they actually commit?" We moved past an office labeled malicious compliance. Inside, 2 demons debated over paperwork while stabbing each other politely. Briv pointed toward a door that shrieked every time someone walked through it. "That's HR. Don't ask." We walked through another hallway, and red tape literally writhed across the walls like vines. "We're short-staffed and filing agony. Great team, low morale. Most of them have been trapped under the same spreadsheet since the Inquisition." I didn't respond. I was too busy watching a demon photocopy its own scream and staple it to a timesheet. Briv stopped abruptly. "Name?" "What?" "For the log. I have to log your name. It's regulation." I gave him a fake one, and he didn't even care. He handed me a clipboard made of fused vertebra. The form on it was impossible to read. Letters that twisted when I looked at them too long. You'll want to review that before your assignment. Standard liability incantations, nothing binding unless you bleed on it. And if I don't? Then the clipboard will make you bleed. He grinned. I didn't. We reached the end of the hallway where the walls pulsed like lungs. A glass elevator waited, more transparent meat tube than mechanical lift. Briv didn't get in. This is where I leave you. Jonas calls floor is special. No stairs, no pass key, just this. Jonas call, he's why I'm here. Briv grunted. Everyone says that. Then they come back talking about ethics, or they don't come back at all. He shoved me forward. The elevator doors opened with a wet sigh. I stepped in. Good luck, Temp. Try not to unionize the pain. The descent began, and that was just the start. The elevator didn't move at first. It hummed. Then the lights dimmed and a low vibration crawled up my spine. Floor numbers didn't blink by, and there weren't any. Instead, the walls began to scroll with text. Not words, sins. Murder, fraud, lust, negligence, cowardice, silence. Each one flickered in red across the glare and then bled away. When the elevator stopped, the doors opened without sound. I stepped into a room suspended in darkness. The floor was glass. Beneath it, an endless ink river churned, thick and slow. Tendrils of smoke curled off of it, curling up like grasping hands. Across the floor stood a single office. Glass walls, a desk, a man standing behind it. Jonas Call. The name Mephisto gave me. He was older than I expected. Gray at the temples, trim suit, charcoal black with crimson lining at the cuffs. His tie looked like it had been cut from old parchment, and he wore it with the loose elegance of someone who long since stopped caring about dress codes, but still respected the performance. He looked up as I entered and gave a warm, tired smile. You must be the collector, or the assassin. Depends how generous Mephisto's feeling today. His voice was calm, balanced. Jonas Call? Guilty. Or at least that's what the paperwork says. Come in. You're not here to loiter in the elevator. I stepped forward, the glass floor flexing beneath me. The weight of the ink river below made my stomach churn. Jonas didn't seem bothered. He moved to the side of the office and waved a hand. The wall shimmered, revealing a hallway of floating platforms suspended in the void. Walk with me. If you're here to kill me, you might as well understand what you're destroying. We stepped out into the corridor, and I followed him down a path that made no sense. Glass platforms shifted into place as we moved, bridging gaps where there had been nothing seconds before. Below us, the ink churned. Above us, rows of suspended offices hovered like floating prisons, their lights blinking in and out like dying stars. This is a department of exceptional circumstances. We handle anomalies, souls that don't quite fit the grid, the ones that make the system uncomfortable. He gestured to a room to our left, where I saw a woman hunched over a desk made of thorns, stamping paperwork while whispering apologies to each sheet. That's Lenora. She catalogs remorse. Not every soul that ends up here is broken. Some just made terrible choices under worse conditions. We track them. We try to help. Help? In hell? Jonas gave a wry smile. You'd be surprised how unpopular the idea is down here. We passed another office. That's records integrity. He's rewriting files Mephisto altered personally. Some of the worst sins in our database are editorial. We kept walking. Jonas's tone shifted as we moved, less guarded, more philosophical. This place was built for order, not justice. The files don't care about context, about reasons. They're checkboxes. Did you sin? Not why did they sin? Not would they again if given the chance? He stopped before a viewing window. Below, dozens of souls were seated in what looked like a classroom, each one shackled to a desk, scribbling furiously while horned invigilators paced between the aisles. Appeal simulation. We let them try to justify themselves. Practice arguments, confessions, rationalizations. Don't change the outcome, but it helps some of them process the damnation. Closure in a way. I didn't say anything. I was watching one man rip pages from his book and try to eat them. An invigilator calmly placed a new sheet in front of him. You think I'm soft. You think I'm trying to play saint in a place built for monsters. I think you're hiding something, and I think you're making it very hard for me to hate you. He laughed, a short, dry sound. That's the trick, ain't it? We reached the final chamber, larger than the others. Transparent floor again, but this one had chains running through it like veins. In the center stood a pedestal holding a single soul file, pulsing with faint blue light. Jonas circled the pedestal and gestured. That's Aaron Drix. Killed 2 men in a robbery. Both were ex-gang members. One had killed a kid. The other trafficked. Drix went to prison and found religion. Refused parole 3 times. Died saving a god during a riot. Why is he here? Because murder is murder, and he never did ask Christ for forgiveness. The system sees a single act, not the totality, not the evolution. Funny how all he had to do was ask for one man to come into his heart. Jonas looked at me. I commuted his sentence. I reviewed the entire history and I made a choice. I stepped forward. The bright blue light from the file shimmered faintly against my skin. That's not your job. No, it ain't. But even here, my commutation of his sentence, I can't send him to heaven. I just gave him a cushy paradise version of hell, the best I could do. And in that silence, the tone changed. He turned away and walked toward his office again. I followed, feeling the shift, the trapdoor tension, the calm before the sirens. As we re-entered his office, Jonas's voice softened. You know what the worst part is? When you realize the punishment fits the sin, but not the person. That's when you understand the machine don't care who you are, just what you did. And you care? Enough to break the rules. I opened my mouth to speak, but he was already moving. He pressed a button beneath his desk. Somewhere deep below, gears shifted. Alarms didn't blare, the glass didn't crack, but I felt it. The lockdown. Jonas looked me in the eye. For the first time, there was real weight in his voice. You work for Mephisto, which means this was never a conversation. It was reconnaissance. He took a step back. I won't let you take me without a fight. I can see our little tour didn't change your mind. And with that, Jonas vanished. melted into smoke, drawn into the air vents like ink through a needle. Behind me, the elevator sealed shut. The lights dimmed. From outside the glass office, I heard something howl. Welcome to the next level of hell. The moment Jonas vanished, everything changed. Not with a bang, but with suffocation. The glass walls flickered and warped, and then calcified into opaque slabs stamped with arcane seals. The overhead lights died with a hydraulic sigh. I turned on instinct. The exit behind me was gone. Where the open hallway had once stretched out in cool symmetry, now a wall of overlapping bureaucratic glyphs pulsed in dull red, words shifting like oil. Jonas hadn't locked the door, he'd reprogrammed the reality. The temperature dropped. The air thickened, saturated with the scent of scorched paper and scorched something else. Then came the sound. Clack, grind, hiss. Mechanical, guttural. A silhouette pressed through the morphine wall opposite me, its body square and metallic, bulging with gears, trays, and slit mouths lined with needles. It looked like a paper shredder demon. Its frame was covered in writhing paper strips, some with writing, some with faces. 4 jointed arms extended from its body, each ending in jagged blades and ink-slicked rollers. Its eyes flickered in tandem, red scan beams tracking across the room. It saw me, and it screamed. I ran. The corridor convulsed. Cubicles reshaped themselves like panicked insects, filing cabinets twisted into stairs, and exit signs turned into arrows pointing inward. I followed the only path that didn't look like it wanted to eat me. I crashed through a door labeled Department of Incident Reporting, only to find myself in a forest of suspended clipboards and dangling typewriters. Pages floated midair, whispering grievances as they hovered. One slapped against my face. Failure to file internal disclosures within allotted window. I tore it off. The demon shredder tore through the wall. I ducked under the swarming paper and dove into a side hallway. It reeked of melted plastic and scorched red tape. A sign above read, "Restructuring in progress." The floor groaned beneath my boots, morphing into a conveyor belt dragging half-melted office chairs into a flaming mouth at the far end. I jumped off just before the teeth. To my right, a break room twisted into something surgical. The vending machines dispensed shriveled tongues. The microwave was still screaming, and corpse-colored light buzzed overhead. And in the center, mounted to a wall of severed performance review forms, was a weapon. An axe. Thick, functional, and brutal. Its blade was stamped with infernal department codes. The handle wrapped in bands of braided projection letters. A tag beneath it read, "Property of Efficiency Enforcement." I ripped it free. It was heavier than I expected. Good. The lights flickered. Behind me, the shredder demon charged. I pivoted, met its lunge with a full swing. The axe hit its chassis and bit deep. Screams of misfiled souls burst from its cracks. I pulled back, swung again, and sheared off one of its limbs. And paper strips erupted from its body like blood. It retaliated, slamming a tray arm into my ribs. I rolled, gasping. The world spun. Another swing. The axe clanged off its skull-like feed slot, then dug through the side of its body. It convulsed, spewing shredded documents in a last furious burst. I stepped in and drove the blade through its center mass. The machine let out a death rasp of jammed toner and went still. My breathing was ragged. My side throbbed. But I was still standing. The floor beneath the dead shredder rippled like a bad dream, and from it rose a new group. Clerks. Corrupted. Dozens of them. Uniforms in tatters, eyes stitched shut, mouths stapled into grins. Their hands were staplers, literally, fused to bone. Some dragged ledgers behind them like a ball and chain. They attacked in sync. I didn't wait. The axe became rhythm. Slash, step, pivot, crack. Red and black ink flew in arcs across the walls. More followed. A flood of bureaucratic rot. I fought through them like a hurricane through a call center. All lower-level demons. Not much power, not much size, not much smarts. Rage became focus. Focus became necessity. And beneath it all, a growing whisper in my head coming from the axe. It spoke to me. Not in words, just urges. Compliance pending. Target under review. Efficiency requires sacrifice. I grit my teeth and pressed on. Past a cluster of monitors broadcasting my worst failures and loot montage. Past a receptionist's desk made of teeth and cubicle partitions that wet when touched. Eventually, I stumbled into what used to be a conference room. Now it was a vivarium for sentient documents. Memos flapped around the ceiling. A lone projector cycled through what looked like war crimes disguised as fiscal presentations. And I found the stairwell. Down. Always down. I moved through corridors labeled with absurd departmental names. Malpractice logistics, deviance forecasting, pre-approved sitting initiatives. Behind one door, I glimpsed a clerk being stapled to the wall by a sentient org chart. Behind another, a meeting was in progress. Dozens of faceless supervisors arguing in a language made of groans and audit sheets. Finally, I reached the vault level. The air changed. It was heavier and quieter. A long corridor stretched ahead, lights dimmed to a nauseating pulse. Red fog leaked from ceiling vents. My boots echoed with each step. At the end of the hall, a vault door. Black steel wrapped in chains. The sigil above it constantly rewrote itself. Terms like ethical variance, moral backlog, and pending cleansing scrolling endlessly. Someone was waiting beside it. Not Jonas. A man, mid-40s, dressed in a charred compliance uniform, face half melted but calm. I was Jonas's assistant before he sought filing his reports. You with him? I was. He held up a key. What changed? He let someone go. A soul? Said they were innocent. Commuted his sentence of eternal suffering and into something more pleasing down here. That man murdered my family when I was alive. I'm sorry. No, you're not. He tossed me the key. But you might be the last one who can stop him. He stepped into the fog and was gone. I turned to the vault. I put the key in and the door opened, and the staircase of paper unfurled downward. Time to finish the audit. The vault's mouth yawned open like it had been waiting for me. The staircase that unfurled wasn't made of stone or steel, but paper. Each step was a page pulsing with the sins of others, infused with memory and confession. I could feel it bleeding into my boots as I descended. Stories that never got filed, sins that never got processed, rejected pleas scrawled across parchment made from regret. The door groaned shut behind me as I walked through. No going back. The stairwell twisted like a bureaucrat's morality. Down, then sideways, then down again, like the whole architecture had been written by a corrupted script. The walls were lined with teeth and filing cabinets, which seemed to be a bit of a repeating thing here. Some were open, some were screaming with tongues bound in folders. I passed one drawer labeled unredeemable. It was rattling. I didn't stop. Ahead was a door, massive, gothic, made of paperwork layered so thick it looked like stone. Each form was signed, stamped, stained and sealed. The final document nailed across the center was marked in dripping red wax. Jonas Call, audit in progress. Do not enter without terminal clearance. I stepped forward. The paper peeled back on its own, folding like petals. The vault wasn't a room. It was a cathedral. And in the center of it all, standing atop a pulpit made from fuse case files and broken gavels, was Jonas Call. He hadn't run. I was expecting something louder, the way you tore through the departments. I thought maybe the axe would come through the door before you did. I stepped forward, weapon in hand. Not here for theatrics. No. You're here to enforce. He put the book down that he was holding gently. The cover read, Revised Index of Moral Exceptions, Volume 47. Jonas stood at the center of the vault like a priest at his altar. You made it. I wondered how long it'd take. There's a lie at the heart of all of this. That sin is simple. That every soul can be sorted by Italian checkboxes. The system was built to measure obedience, not justice. And obedience is a poor God. You're not just forgiving sinners, you're hiding them, shielding them. I'm giving them a second judgment. One that asks for context. One that sees the mother who stole to feed her child as something more than thief. One that sees the broken, the manipulated, the scarred, and doesn't throw them into the pit with the monsters. You're not authorized to make those calls. Authorized by whom? That chain-smoking sadist upstairs? The department heads with bleeding gavel heads and no faces? The whole system is a joke. Mephisto's way isn't the only way. You're not the hero here. No. I'm a man who got tired of stamping denied on redemption. I know I said I wasn't gonna fight you, but I seem to have changed my mind. He raised a hand and the ledger behind him shuddered. Pages flipped faster and faster until they stopped on a blank spread. A burst of sulfur-laced wind blasted outward, and shapes began to rise from the pages. Ink made flesh, sins made incarnate. The first was shaped like envy, green-eyed serpentine constantly devouring itself. Another formed betrayal, carrying a mirror that showed versions of me I didn't want to remember. I don't want to fight you. You already are. Every time you bring a soul to Mephisto without actually asking if they deserved it. The first demon lunged. I met it midair, axe crashing through its chest. Ink and bile exploded across the vault's altar floor. The others followed. They came in waves, each sin screaming with my voice or wearing my face. A memory of my worst moments danced behind their attacks. The man I could have saved, the kid I ignored, the lie I told when it was easier than the truth. Jonas watched, arms folded, eyes distant. This wasn't about punishment for him. It was like a thesis. Every soul you collect from Mephisto is a piece of your soul that's taken away from you. I stood over the last body panting. My arms ached. My skin bled in a dozen places. The vault was quiet again. Jonas stepped forward and opened the ledger. Then let's finish the lesson. His weapon wasn't a blade. It was a quill. 6 feet long, steel-tipped, carved with contract law in 20 languages. He spun it like a spear, the point glinting with judgment. Our weapons clashed in a storm of parchment and sparks. Every strike he landed echoed with clauses. Guilt by omission, failure to intercede, consent by silence. I pushed back, blow after blow. The axe carved clean, but every wound he took filled with more text. He wasn't trying to win. He was trying to show me his way. Finally, I knocked the quill from his hand and he fell to one knee. I stepped forward, raising the axe. Wait, Jonas said, his voice thin. He reached into his robes and pulled out a red folder. My name was printed on it. One more audit. He opened the folder and let the pages fall. I stood there, axe in hand. How many sins before you stop being one of the good ones? I do it for them and my family. Every monster in this place has a reason. Go ahead, he said. I didn't speak. I swung. He didn't resist. He didn't cry out. The axe landed hard, deep, and final. Jonas crumpled. The ledger slammed shut. A blue flame rose from his chest and hovered, waiting. I didn't look at it. Not yet. I just stared at the folder, at my name, at the empty vault. But the silence didn't last long. I smelled him before I saw him. Cologne, sulfur, and cheap coffee. Then, just like always, Mephisto strolled in like he'd owned the place since time began, like he did all the fighting himself. He was in a three-piece suit this time. No horns, no flair. Just pressed charcoal, wool, and a pocket square on his suit. He clapped once, slow and theatrical. Well, he said, stepping lightly over Jonas's body. That was dramatic. Bit of a soliloquy at the end there. I like it. Plays well with the crowd. He stopped at the blue flame drifting above Jonas's chest. It pulsed once, twice, then slowly curved toward Mephisto like a flower leaning into sunlight. Jonas, hell's most annoying idealist. Thought he could fix the system from the inside. Poor bastard. He reached out. The flame hesitated, flickered. Don't pout, he whispered. You had your chance. The flame folded in on itself and floated into Mephisto's palm, disappearing into his skin like ink into paper. He sighed deeply, eyes fluttering shut. Vintage guilt. Notes of rebellion, lingering hints of regret. Pairs beautifully with hell's bureaucracy. He looked at me. You look awful. You always do at the end. I didn't answer. He nodded at the folder still lying on the floor. Big file. And did he show you your worst hits? I stared down at it and felt my body begin to disintegrate. I woke in stages. First came the smell. Smoke, mildew, something vaguely citrus. Then came the flickering light behind my eyelids. Buzzing, faint. And finally the ache. Bone deep. Every muscle screaming in protest. My ribs felt like they'd been used as a percussion instrument. When I opened my eyes, the ceiling above me was the same nicotine-stained popcorn texture it always was. The motel. The same room, same scratchy sheets, same ceiling fan. There was a sticky note stuck to my forehead. I peeled it off slowly. In tight, immaculate handwriting it read, Nice work, killer. Coffee's cold, you're not. When? I sat up. My body was whole again. No blood, no bruises, although I still ached. Mephisto must have healed me again, I don't know how. The motel room was dim, light filtering in through half-shut blinds. I stood. The floor was cold, my boots were back by the door, clean and polished like I hadn't just trudged through hell's worst filing nightmare. Then I heard it. The crunch of popcorn. I turned. Mephisto was sitting in the chair by the window, legs crossed, a red and white paper bucket balanced on one knee. He was in a sharp business suit this time. Black pinstripes, crimson tie, and gold cufflinks shaped like screaming skulls. He looked fresh out of a boardroom and ready for a press conference. Sleep well, sunshine? He asked, tossing a kernel into his mouth. Define well, He shrugged. You didn't scream this time, that's something. I moved to the sink and splashed water on my face. I looked normal, just a tired man with too many ghosts behind me. Jonas, used to make performance reviews a damn nightmare, quoting ethics codes, demanding audits, filing complaints to departments that hadn't existed in centuries. Frankly, I'm amazed he lasted this long. I didn't answer. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a thick red folder, slapped it down on the table between us with a heavy thunk. My name was on the cover. Gift. Been meaning to get this to you. Consider it a token of appreciation. I didn't reach for it. What is it? Your case file. Every sin, every choice, every moment of hesitation. The full breakdown. Why now? Mephisto smiled. It wasn't warm. Because you're 5 souls in. Thought you might want a reminder of who you are, or who you used to be, or who you might become depending on how the next 5 go. I stared at the folder. The edges were worn. What happens when I reach the end? You get your life back, my friend. You get your soul. Or whatever's left of it. He winked. Before I could ask him what the hell that meant, he got up and walked out the door. I sat down. I stared at the red folder. And finally, I opened it. I read the first line.